So my name is Carlos. I've been in the design industry for about between 15 and 20 years. And I've seen a few waves of disruption into the ways that we work. Some of you might or might not remember Microsoft's Macromedia Flash, where everything was about animations and huge loaders before we were interacting with the tool or with a website. Then mobile came and killed Flash, and we started doing mobile design, responsive design. And now with cloud computing accelerating and internet being faster, product design and software as a service came to be. But one thing that remained constant throughout these years was that our focus was always designing for people. Like the human was always at the center of everything that we were doing. Same thing with this new wave, the AI wave. I'm going to talk about something that really excites me, which is the human-centered approach of doing things. But this time, we're going to change or do things a little bit differently, which is going to be, we're accelerating a few of those activities with artificial intelligence. So this keyboard here? Yeah. All right, this one? Yeah. So what is human-centered design or human-centered approach? A lot of you probably are familiar with something like this. There's like a phase where we are in the problem space. Who are the users? What is the business trying to do? What are the things that they want to do, the users? What are the pain points? And so on and so forth. And in the understand phase or in the empathy phase, like we see it or in discovery phase, many names for the same thing. We do stakeholder interviews, we do user interviews, we do market research, we do a lot of secondary and primary research. And with that, there's a lot of documentation and a lot of data to process. So it takes a lot of time to go through and do the right thing just to make sure that this is the problem we're trying to fix. Then once we are sure about more or less this is what we're trying to solve, we go into the exploration phase. Let's call it ideation, and so on and so forth. But in the exploration phase, essentially what we're doing is we're in the solution space. We're trying to find ways on how can we solve this particular problem that we have. And in this phase, we do a lot of brainstorming, a lot of story mapping, a lot of exploration of what are the best ways for us to solve this particular problem. And once we find that specific thing that we think, based on data and the research that we do, that is the avenue to go and to deliver value to the market, then we go to the virtualization or deliver or implement phase, which is doing the UI work, going to Figma, doing the prototypes, doing the UI concepts, maybe design systems, the handover to developers, the handover of documentation over to the product team to make sure that they are testing the right things and delivering the right things to the market. And we start measuring if the impact is what we were expecting. Again, there's a lot of stuff here. And I'm calling it traditional approach, this approach, which is for you to go from a place of uncertainty and ambiguity where you start from nothing to the place where you are delivering something to the market and doing the right things as you should. It takes a lot of time and effort and resources, like people and money. And we know that the pressures of the market, a lot of the times, and even some of our colleagues, the product managers or the directors, come on, we need to go to market with this. Maybe we don't do the validation part. Maybe we skip that part. No user testing. Let's launch it to market. So I see a lot of problems here with this approach. But then again, I'm going to talk about this new wave called AI, artificial intelligence. So I've been doing my research for the past year or so and working with various tools like Chat, GTP, and Stable Diffusion, and a lot of the gazillion tools that exist out there. The way that I kind of structure it in my mind is in one end, you have a lot of unstructured data, like raw data from databases, from sensors of IoT devices or things being generated by other devices and stuff like that. You have text from the internet or PDFs or even hard copies that you scan and you use that information for some of the stuff that you do. From recordings and audios, from videos and images, and also actual code. A lot of stuff here. And a lot of the times, we go through all this information ourselves. But now we have this tool, I'm going to call it a tool, that you insert something, a model, in between, and it translates all this information unstructured. And magically, on the other side, you have either an analysis of a pattern based on that information, like the model analyzes everything and says, here are a few things that you can do or you can use. Or it kind of predicts, like people who use this data and do this have the propensity to do certain things. Or it generates information, like brand new information. That's what essentially ChatGPT and DALL-E and all these generative AI tools do. So the problem with this as well is that a lot of us, and I mean not only designers, developers, product managers, directors, people who think they can design or they can develop, like we saw earlier in some of the talks, is that if we kind of use AI tool as it is at face value, and we put something in, the output is going to be okay. But are we going to be confident enough that that output is going to be usable and practical in the real world? So of course we're accelerating the outcomes or the outputs a little bit faster, but we're not that confident that we can utilize that information because we don't trust it yet. So, but we can use AI for a lot of cool things, in my opinion. I'm going to talk to you a few of those cool things that I believe that is going to change some of the ways that we work. And people who have been in the industry for a while, things change and we have to adapt. And one thing's for sure, and this has already been mentioned, things are going to change. So what can AI help us with? Imagine you're doing research, right? You're doing user interviews, you have the transcripts, you have the recordings, you have to go through all of them, you have to analyze the recordings, analyze the transcripts, come up with some insights based on that, go through that times X amount of interviews that you do, and then at the end of, let's say, 2 or 3 weeks, or maybe faster if you're faster, you'll have insights. Now imagine that you can use tools like this one on Dovetail that you can put your raw information in, so your transcripts and your audio, and out of it comes out some insights that the AI can extract from it. Of course, this is not replacing the work that you should be doing because you should be doing that work yourself. But what this does is like it adds that extra insight that maybe you missed from your analysis. So it enhances a little bit your own work and gives you a different perspective. Same thing goes for ideation. So insights, problem space. Now let's go into the ideation space. So what does the ideation look like more or less? You all go to a room with your team. There's a whiteboard or maybe Miro or something or FigJam, and you start like putting down post-its of ideas to solve this particular problem. Again, here comes FigJam and their generative functionality where you can put the same context, so the same problem space, and you click a button and it tells you like here are a few ideas that you can use in order to solve this particular challenge. Again, it's not replacing you as the medium to generate some ideas. It's just helping you and enhancing your work that you do already. And again, accelerating things a little bit. Same thing for prototyping testing. Again, one of the activities that people cut a lot of the times, let's not do user testing, let's assume that risk and launch into market. There are tools that are able to quantitatively, using a lot of data, big data, to kind of predict what is going to be the propensity of you, or the user in this case, clicking on certain elements of your interface. But even in the future, when we saw Figma Config this year, when maybe Figma is going to start generating UI components based on your design system, maybe, or maybe on billions of design systems, then it's going to tell you like, okay, here's a few options that you can use in order to convey the message that you're trying to convey. So I think from what we can see, there's a lot of opportunity here to, I believe, do still the same kind of work that we're doing, added the cherry on top, so to speak, like enhancing our work with AI tools, but faster. So it's not necessarily delivering the same value as the traditional approach because, again, I don't personally, being a designer for so many years, there's a lot of merit in doing the human-centered approach as it is, or the design thinking approach. But with the pressures of delivering faster, better, and so on and so forth, everyone is going to be pushed to use these tools. So essentially, what you're doing is you're either producing faster because you're being helped with a superpower of AI, or you're exploring more than you used to do before because you have now more time in your hands to do more stuff. So for me, I believe this is a win, right? All right. So I'm going to show you a few examples of how we're using AI at Nagarro, and to accelerate some of the work and also offer a few flavors of the things that we do. So here's a client that we had in the real estate industry. And they came to us to kind of develop this building operating system, something that we never think about, like a building having an operating system, like a mobile has iOS or Android. But yeah, buildings like HVAC, like air conditioner, lighting, elevators, doors opening and closing automatically, all of those things are controlled by devices. And something needs to control or own that entire system. So they came to us and say, like, we want to develop this building operating system to automate and create a lot of efficiencies for our buildings. But one thing that kind of missed the equation was, well, there's people in buildings. We spend 90% of our time in buildings. So there's a lot of information here about humans that we're not accounting for. So what we did was, like, what if we kind of, like, we already know, like, people are coming in, or when they are in the building, when they're not in the building, in what area of the building they're in. So let's use that information to sort of like automate a few things or make things more interesting for the people who live in there. So that's what we did. We kind of started like looking at the people's behaviors and habits from a data point of view, not from a qualitative point of view. And we started like giving them suggestions, such as like, okay, I see that you open your blinds at 8 a.m. every day and you close your blinds every day at 7 p.m. So what if we can automate that for you and make maybe one thing you don't have to think about is like opening and closing and maybe having a better living experience. But also at the same time, get out of the way. At the same time, we're creating even more sustainable buildings because we're accounting for one factor that people weren't accounted for, which is people. All right, doesn't talk too much here about AI, but AI is driving a lot of this automation here. Now, accelerating a few of the work that we do, the human-centered approach. Product personas. So this is some of the times, this is the starting point. Like, who are the users we're designing for? And the right way of doing this is you need access to your end users. You start doing interviews, starting chatting with them, creating that empathy, trying to understand what is it that they're trying to do, what are the difficulties, what is the journey like. But for people who work in the industry for a long time, know that sometimes getting to users, it's hard. Sometimes we don't get that luxury. So this is where AI can come in to a certain degree. And it came in this example. So we were trying to kind of work with this client in a very, I'm going to call it obscure, not mass market kind of industry. And it's very hard to find people out and about to kind of interview for this particular use case. So we started like, we have to start somewhere. So why not like go to Bing or ChatGPT and try to figure out like, what is it that they want to do? So we started asking a few questions and prompting the AI to tell us, what is it that these people do? What are the pain points? What are the use cases? And we started building with that information our product persona. Of course, it's all based on assumptions. Of course, there's a lot of risk associated with it, but still, we have to start somewhere. And with that, we started like constructing the user journey or the customer journey map and trying to understand what were the challenges and opportunities. And we started like thinking about, okay, how we're going to solve for these particular things in the journey. And we did a proof of concept. We validated again with the client, this time with real users. And yeah, surprise, kind of worked. So we accelerated a lot of things by just going to generative AI and asking a few things, and it told us like this is more or less what you should be focusing on. Of course, it can be low-hanging fruits, but again, it's a kickstart for us to go in the right direction. Okay, again, usability testing. I don't think this is going to replace usability testing, but it kind of helps us narrow down some of the options that we bring to users to test. So if you're in the ideation space and we start kind of doing a lot of options and like maybe we have 6 or 7 options or maybe or 4 or 5, and we start thinking about, okay, which one of these is the best? We don't know. So should we bring every single one of them to the user test and like test like 5 versions with one user, maybe 1 hour session to do like these validations just to make sure that it's the right one? Or what if we use like data and AI to kind of like do some that probabilistic analysis for us? So that's what we did here in one of the clients as well. So we got some feedback from customers and that they were having difficulties in like going and accessing the menu. The navigation was a little bit weird. And what we did was like, okay, the navigation not working. Let's go back to the drawing board, start like doing some options. And we did like 4 or 5. And then we said, okay, we're not bringing all of this and annoy people with for 1 hour because these are clients from our clients. And let's try to put all of these 5 options into this AI tool that it's a plugin on Figma that enables us to kind of like test the probability of people using one over the other. So we kind of like narrowed down to 1 or 2 options that were the most favorable. So we took those 2 over to users and we tested with them, and then yeah, it kind of worked. Again, instead of us wasting like maybe a week of preparing the user interview, preparing the script, sourcing the people, making sure that the times were there, and testing all these 5 versions, coming up with the data, come back, analyze the data, and also do the reporting and do the changes. We did this literally maybe in seconds. Easy. So it accelerates a lot of stuff. All right. Again, I'm not promoting here that you should use these like blindly. It's always about the collaboration. You should use your own expertise and good senses that humans have. That's power of understanding the subtleties of what is a human, and we kind of talked about here a little bit earlier with the ladies of UX, which is that empathy part of things, that we have a superpower as humans. We understand the context. We understand like what is to have a relationship with another person. AI doesn't. AI's superpower essentially is to let's look at large quantities of data, and here are some of the patterns that I found here for you that it might be helpful. Might not be helpful, but here are some regardless. So for me, I see it like AI and us, like a Batman and Robin kind of situation, or Alfred, if you kind of like Alfred person. It's a superhero and it's sidekick. So the sidekick has superpowers, like AI has superpowers, and we have our own superpowers. But there's always a but in this cautionary tale. A lot of the models that we have today are trained, most of them are trained on Western data. And if we look around either the news or the stories and so on and so forth, we know that there is biases in the world. Even we have biases. So AI definitely has biases. So here's a study done with one of the most famous generative tools out there, and it was asked, hey, show me images of people with the most high paying jobs. And if we look at politicians or judges or CEOs, it kind of indexes a lot on people with lighter skin. If we do the same thing with, hey, show me pictures of dishwashers or janitors or cashiers, it kind of indexes a lot on darker skin. Of course, like depending on the country you are, this is going to skew dramatically the culture of that country. And if the AI tools that we use are sort of trained on Western data, so things are going to be off a little bit. But not only on racial, also gender biases. Same question, show me images of high-paying jobs, CEOs, doctors, politicians, lawyers. mainly male images. And if we look at low-paying occupations, or even when I say nurse, what's the first image that comes to mind? It's probably a woman. So AI as well, teacher, cashier, fast food worker, indexing majority on women. So what does this tell us? Not to use AI blindly. It's not know-it-all. We have to be sure that we're the ones guiding it. So takeaways here. It's a partnership, it's a collaboration, such as any other tool that we use. We are in the driving seat. We are the ones with expertise. It's just helping us and facilitating a lot of the grunt work that we have to do, like reading texts, finding patterns, finding insights, getting summaries of things that we are too busy to read, or it's boring, we don't want to. So let's use AI, the superpower, to accelerate that process. So from reading data analysis to testing, and we get the fun stuff, not the shitty jobs anymore. So we get all the fun stuff. All right, so I'm gonna do now a shameful plugin like everyone else is doing, and I'm gonna talk about Nagarro now. So yeah, let's put it aside for a minute. So who's Nagarro? Like, the chances are that we probably have met before, not physically, but you probably have used something that we have helped produce. So for instance, we've worked with a big airline to manage and calculate more than 30,000 flights daily, taking you to the right place and with the luggage not lost. Very important. And also, like, we are keeping the lights on the White House in Saudi Arabia. So thank you, America. And we also make sure that when you get to the room you're in, you're actually getting in. So we help like people within the hospitality industry to develop applications and software to manage the doors. Something that we never think about, but actually exists. Like when you swipe your card and getting in, like there's a software system just making sure that that actually happens. We help people do that. So we work with many different clients around the globe. Here are a few: Siemens, Lufthansa, Roche, and Verizon, Twitter or X, New York City, etc. And we are essentially a global leader in software solutions. Some of you probably this is a little bit boring, but it keeps the lights on a lot of businesses and makes the world go round, so to speak. So we make sure that the things that we build are, again, human-centric. They are valuable for not only for the people who are going to use it, but also for the businesses, to make sure that things are the way they are supposed to be, like intentful and purposeful. And talking a little bit about us more, is that we've been on the block for a while, 25 years or more. We are in 35 countries, so yeah, surprise. And we are 19,000 colleagues around the world. And that translates over to like 1,000 customers, 9.5 satisfaction. So we must be doing something right. And also, like, most of the business, it's repeat business. So people want to start and to continue working with us. One thing that I really enjoyed, and I've been at Nagarro for 3.5 years, is the culture. There will be some familiar faces here, like one is there, this guy here. Is that we have many offices, but there's no single HQ. Like, everyone reports to this location, and we should like do this. So there's many different nationalities, 35, and even more. So there's a lot of diversity. So a lot of diversity is cool for creativity, because we get different perspectives and different points of view, which kind of challenges constantly. But we are under all one manifesto, which is our culture and ways of thinking, ways of doing things, ways of taking care of each other. That's one of actually the main value. It's caring. Yeah, and surprise, yeah, we just opened 2 offices here in Portugal in the last year. So one in Lisbon, one in Porto. So there are 2 people in Porto, Jamagro and Samuel. currently, not Samuel, Nuno, and they're currently there. So people in Porto, if you want to chat about AI and Nagarro or anything, just chat with them. And we have myself, Ugo, and Diogo to chat to you about Nagarro or any questions you might have. And that's it.